Welcome to Light Data Action, the podcast that's on a mission to help you discover new technology trends and tools and better understand how they affect the world around us. I'm your host, Terry Barbounis, and in each episode, I'll speak with industry executives and thought leaders to discuss how these technologies change the way we do business and how you can stay ahead of the innovation. If you're ready, let's join the conversation. Hey everybody, I'm Terry Barbounis, Director of Innovation Strategy within Lumen's Product Innovation Team, and I'm also the host for Lumen's external thought leadership podcast, Light Data Action. This week we're here in San Francisco attending the 2023 Game Developer Conference. And today we're going to talk about technology, next generation technology, Metaverse, AI, all the types of things that affect the gaming industry. I'm fortunate today to also have a wonderful panel of guests, and I'm going to introduce them and then I'll let you guys talk about kind of what you bring into this industry. I have Mimi Keshani, COO and founder of Hadean.
Correct.
Josh Russ, co-founder, CEO
hello.
of Surreal Events. I have Adam Voss, co-founder, CMO, Chief Marketing Officer for Surreal Events. And once again, Umesh, Lakshman, Head of Solution Architecture for Lumen. Welcome. So let me start by asking you guys this. I think I'll get to Umesh last because it's Lumen. When we talk about Hadean, what does Hadean do?
So you can think of Hadean as the infrastructure or the plumbing of the metaverse. So we build and operate virtual worlds, but we're the bit that sits underneath, the crazy cool stuff that Josh and his team build that you see, that makes it scale, that makes it globally distributed, that makes it operate in production.
Awesome. And then Josh or Adam, what does Surreal Events do for the audience?
As Mimi mentioned, Surreal is a metaverse platform, which is a publishing tool, sort of sits as middle layer on top of the infrastructure that the guys at Hadean build, that allows creators, developers, designers, agencies, the toolkit that can actually go out and create and publish multiplayer worlds. Ours is a pixel streamed application, so you don't need any special hardware, GPU specific device. It all runs in the browser, so we stream directly to the user, which makes it really accessible. And we're known really for the quality with which we can deliver, so we go for premium quality in terms of graphic fidelity of the worlds that we build and deploy.
That's awesome. Adam, do you want to add anything?
Think of us as a WordPress for metaverse type applications. Ooh, where we make it really easy for our companies that come to us, businesses, enterprises, brands that want to connect with their audiences quickly with a photo reel rendering in the cloud. Again, low friction. Josh mentioned via the browser. We also have great swag.
Awesome. Now, I'm going to assume that both for Hadean and for Surreal Events, you work across multiple industries, not just gaming. Is that accurate?
Yeah, from a Surreal perspective, I mean, we don't really focus on any one industry, although we do a lot of work with automotive industries because of the quality, the fidelity of the rendering that we do, CPG, retail, but it kind of goes across industry. I mean, if you think about metaverse as a whole, right, which is sort of a new and nascent, everything word if you want to describe sort of what it is, it really is the 3D, layer of the internet, so it goes cross industry. So from public infrastructure, e-learning, retail, direct-to-consumer, there's really no end to the application that you can publish for.
So from that perspective, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, just to follow on the same question, cross-industry, industry agnostic. We cut our teeth in gaming. So 4 years ago this day,
wow,
we broke the world record for the most number of players in a single online game at GDC with CCP Games, the current world record holder.
Wow.
Now, that was a lot of work. Cloud gaming was, the hype term at the moment. But what we realized is to create a high fidelity virtual world for use in media, entertainment, sports, fashion, it is exactly the same technology set required to do other more purposeful things like synthetic training environments for government, defense, remote location, things like that. So truly agnostic to industries, but we've got kind of core business in gaming media brands, so
Sure.
Sony, Pixel Links, CCP Games, Minecraft. These are all customers that we've worked with,
Sure.
as well as the UK MOD, BAE Systems, CAE, who need the same tech, but a very different use case.
Yeah. So the reason I asked that question is, what's the unique aspect of this industry? Because we certainly, from a Lumen perspective, we provide network infrastructure, edge computing, and so forth to a number of industries as well. But gaming is different. What you don't have in gaming that you sometimes see in other industries is, well, we don't need public cloud, we don't need edge because that's the way we've always done it. You don't get that from gaming. Gaming comes to you with the most audacious use cases and says, make this work. Do you guys see the same dynamic with the work that you do? I know in your case, Mimi, obviously that's your more of a specialty, but I'm just curious where the differentiators are.
We love gaming because they ask to do the impossible and set these challenges that other people say, no, it can't be done. And then you can go out and break it and battle test your infrastructure. So they say they don't need certain things, but actually they need the highest end infrastructure, the lowest latency, the super performance simulations. Because if you can make gamers happy, you can probably do other very cool things. They're probably the hardest audience to address.
That's awesome.
And from a Surreal perspective, I mean, our platform requires a GPU per user, right? So we need, oftentimes we work with the big publicly available clouds, so AWS, GCP, Azure. When we think about putting our experiences out at the edge, we see the opportunity, we see the need. Folks like yourselves, the telcos, right, which have infrastructure at the edge, where we can get closer to the user, which will increase performance. Our challenge right now is having the management infrastructure to be able to deploy cross-cloud, which is what we're working on right now, multi-cloud deployment, where you can place these assets closer to the user at the scale that we need, which is at times, a bit of a GPU problem, right? Because we need more hardware.
Sure. Umesh, you're asked from Lumen's perspective, you run the team that basically builds those solutions from an infrastructure perspective. Is it the same dynamic that you see in terms of what Mimi just touched on, that being asked for the impossible, and gaming is certainly one industry that you're almost guaranteed to be asked to do the impossible?
Almost always is maybe what I'd start with.
Yeah.
And it's because I think it's completely uncharted waters. Traditionally, technology has been deterministic prior to gaming. You put a specific resource or a type of technology to do a specific thing, and that's how it's always been done historically. You put the same set of technologies into gaming, and it's not a direct transpose. It never happens that way. So what we end up seeing is we either have to optimize, create more performance, create lesser latency. We have to solve for speed, the concept of having a more interactive experience, and what the underpinning from a network, from an infrastructure, from a resource standpoint, all have to be placed almost subjectively. Geographically is a huge difference. So that's our challenge, right? There's no two problem statements that look exactly the same.
Right. Now, from going back to Metaverse, one of the things with Metaverse that we certainly run into is most people's understanding of Metaverse is what companies like Meta were building. Is it were now? Because I think we've moved on. But the kind of the social gaming aspect of it. How do you look at Metaverse or Metaverses in general from your perspective?
The Metaverse is marketing. Did everyone hear that? The Metaverse is marketing. It started as a pivot word and now has moved to a pejorative. When I'm mad at my kids, I say, "You Metaverse, you dirty." No, I mean, the issue is gaming is the sea from which the data that we are streaming, the data that you are creating, these powerful network connections are coming to the consumers. But, our clients all want transactional environments where brands can find a new way to amplify their engagement and eventually sell things, right? So for us, it's taking what we're learning from gaming and creating those game loops of narrative, exploration, and genuine community that gets people coming back, not once, but again and again and again, so that they feel like they're a part of something bigger than I'm going to buy X widget at X Metaverse store. But I know Josh has some.
No, I'll maybe.
Nobody follows the marketing guy.
I know, don't see it differently. I think you said it earlier, Josh. We believe the next iteration of the internet is going to be 3D and spatial. We're going to see a blending of the physical and the digital world. Some people say that is the metaverse. Some people say, what Meta's building the metaverse. At Hadean, we don't want to try and define it. We don't want to own it. We want to provide infrastructure tooling that lets the creative economy on top of that infrastructure, whatever it looks like, to build to their wildest imagination. So we have a phrase internally that we stole from Jurassic Park: life will find a way. We don't know what it looks like, but we want to let that happen.
There's often a one of the ways that metaverse is described is certainly within industrial applications is as a digital twin, right? Do you see metaverse as a digital twin in that way, or are there aspects where that virtual world is really unique? It's not a twin of anything. It's its own unique aspect.
I think it's an interesting question. It's something we grapple with a lot. How do you define a virtual world? And typically it's, well, what do you want to do with it? Is it a game world that we're all going to have fun in? Has it got a certain utility? It's a digital twin of a manufacturing environment you want to run predictive analysis on to do decision support for critical infrastructure. Is it a synthetic training environment where you want to have fast jet fighter pilots training with ground crew, training with the commander at HQ, all in a common operating picture? From our perspective, that's why I say we don't want to define it, because these all could be metaverse applications, but they're all definitely 3D virtual world applications that require the tool set that we're all bringing together. So I think it's why put everything in a box? If people need what we're trying to build, let's find a way of getting it to them. I would put digital twins as part of the metaverse world, but that's a personal one.
No, that's awesome. Umesh, how do you what do you hear? Because I've certainly heard, we talk about digital twins all the time. Before, Adam, to your point, before everything became meta or metaverse, what kind of feedback do you get when you talk to customers from a technology perspective?
I think the interesting part of just digital twins, or the concept of digital twins, is we're trying to solve for problems that we could never scale out organically, that we're now trying to, right? Planetary metaverse as a term, right? That was coined by Microsoft. Same concept, right? We cannot do that in a planetary scale, but we can digitally and solve for it. And we could potentially create efficiency as an ecosystem as a whole. So I think that's the biggest difference, is it's opening up a brand new set of ways to solve problems that were just too big to scale towards with the normal organic ways of doing things.
Yeah. Certainly over the last few weeks, I think we've all seen the press with GPT 4.0 being released. We know what's happened over the last few months with Chat GPT. In the work that your companies do, whether it's within the gaming industry or others, where does this evolution of AI, at least on the GPT side, does it fit into the calculus anywhere? Is it something that you now have to rethink a little bit, only from the perspective that I don't think the success of what we've seen at GPT exploding the way it has, and now literally being everywhere. Even Meta announced that they're going to focus on AI now. How does it fall into kind of your own roadmaps and so forth from a Surreal Events and from a Hadean?
I mean, from a gaming perspective, from a metaverse perspective, for the longest time, sort of art has been a logjam, right? I mean, you've got Unity and Unreal doing what they've been doing to really help that whole process, right? To help the pipeline for the 3D art creation. But with AI, in the last even 3 weeks, I've seen demos from companies all over the world that are really accelerating the procedurally generated, content for 3D worlds, right? And so we see that as having a huge impact on what we do, because if we can expedite the speed at which we're developing content, the more content we're going to have, right? If we think about the web as 3D, right, that's a lot of content. How do we go faster? And so for us, and I'm sure Mimi would agree, procedurally generated 3D worlds, playable experiences. This is going to really change the game from a metaverse perspective. I'm sure the gamers here would agree as well. It comes with its own challenges, I would say, but that's what we're seeing right now. I don't know. Would you agree?
Absolutely. Content production is the biggest bottleneck of any virtual world creation right now. So without a shadow of a doubt, we're going to see a huge proliferation of AI technologies there. But I just think it's going to touch everything. Everything that we do will be assisted by AI at some point, and all the parts of our production workflow. I don't think it's going to take over, but it will be assisting humans, whether it is the QA process and debugging the things that we're creating. That's a huge bottleneck right now. And then I even say some of the worlds that we build where you're doing complex activity and you want to understand and analyze the situation after action. So if a training environment, making sure people have actually developed the learning outcomes. If you could quickly summarize what happened in that world and pull out the key objective points and then teach people or create a new world from that, that's going to dramatically accelerate how quickly we can train people. And that can all be done today with things like GPT-4. I think one of the challenges is all these algorithms are very compute hungry. Right. So what we look at from a software infrastructure perspective is how could we now help accelerate the use of these things in virtual worlds or metaverse applications?
Yeah. Adam?
Be it a metaverse or a gaming situation, the content is king in kingdom, right? So It's all about a story. And brands, they call it a value proposition. In a game, it's the story mode that you're exploring. And with AI, the ability to create a immersive multiplayer that can communicate, that can learn from the player itself and populate those NPCs within that transaction environment. So a sales associate then doesn't need to actually be staffed by a human being wearing a headset somewhere at a call center. The NPC is smart enough and engaged enough and learns to move with the flow of that customer journey.
Yeah, just to follow on to that, we did a demonstration recently with BAE Systems. It was a massive virtual training environment which had 60,000 complex AI entities running around, causing chaos in the way that real humans do in a troubled situation, doing things like running into crash sites, tweeting, then affecting what else was happening in the world, and then the team being trained having to dynamically respond to that. So you're very quickly being able to create personalized learning experiences, personalized gaming experiences with offsetting and playing against complex AI today.
Yeah, Umesh?
Maybe a sidebar comment, but I think with AI feeding into content and creating this, I would say, almost an explosion of content with AI, we have a secondary problem of distribution of said content to the gamer that we're also creating, because the AI integration into the network side of the house, into the infrastructure side of the house, is not as easy as just code, right? So that is the problem we'll need to solve for in the near term, with AI and machine learning kicking into the content side versus the distribution side.
How is Lumen solving for that?
It's like, you just asked Terry's question. It's like $20.
No more CMOs. That's what happens. You bring the marketing guy in, I got it from here. Go ahead, Umesh.
I'm done. All right. So from Lumen's perspective, the biggest thing is about putting the right resources closer to the user. You guys mentioned this always.
Yeah.
Right. I think we have gone past the point of connecting to and from cloud and living with the cloud. And we have figured out quickly that cloud is just another problem statement now that we need to solve for. So we are effectively moving the edge closer and closer, almost like the far edge, closer to the consumer, to the gamer, so that anything that doesn't need to be effectively refactored or changed or cached can be cached right there. So that a 9-year-old son of mine who wants to download a game gets it in like 5 seconds, versus having to I ordered this, how much time is it going to take? 25 minutes. Right. So we're trying to solve for that by moving that edge piece, that compute, that power closer to the user as phase one, and making it more elastic, right? And composable is maybe where I would say the next piece is going, like GPU as a service is where it's going, so that we can come in and have a very elastic model to just grow on the edge as needed and augment existing content as well.
So Lumen plus Edge, you're at the ledge.
Wow.
Come on, guys. Come on. Round of applause. Lumen's at the ledge.
I can't follow
We should
that.
hire him and have him do them.
I can't follow the marketing guy.
Yeah, I think the which leads me to my next question.
He's been planning that all day.
What was my train of thought before the ledge happened again?
What do you see? And I ask this both from so I work within product innovation. I tell people I get paid to daydream. Look at the technology that's out there, figure out how to pair it up with what Lumen offers as a differentiator, validate a prototype, and then put it together for something that's potentially a product. What are the challenges that you guys run into where you say to yourselves, we're here, we can go here, if I could just solve for this, and I ask it from the perspective of, those are the questions Umesh and I ask customers, the whole, what can Lumen do? What are the types of things that you guys see that if somebody could solve that, we're good now, we can be even better?
I mean, you just touched on it. If there is a sort of a GPU as a service, right, or distributed rendering sort of at the edge, for us that's invaluable. That when we can crack that nut, or otherwise it's virtualization of GPU, where we're getting multi-tenancy of GPU, that makes a high fidelity, low latency streamed experience available for masses. That's our biggest challenge right now. When you guys could solve that problem, it'd be worth a lot of money.
We should talk. Mimi?
I think at Hadean, we've got a similar challenge to you at Lumen. We're fundamentally a distributed computing company, which sort of means you can do everything and you will affect everything. So staying focused on what we can deliver today, where we can get revenue today, but also kind of keep that long-term ambition of solving the world's hardest problems is always a challenge. And I can tell you, even this morning, I was speaking about building high-fidelity virtual worlds with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of complex AI entities running around, which today is still a difficult thing to do. I went from that to a conversation about quantum cryptography and using the latent compute in all the devices that we carry with each other, because these are all the things that we know we could touch on. It's just, what do we do today? And focus and prioritization is always the challenge versus doing everything and boiling the ocean.
Yeah. It seems like, we certainly see it from an innovation perspective, that we went from, I wish I had something that I can put data on here and then run analysis on it because I'm running robotic software and the latency is too high for public cloud and I'm not going to do it on-prem. And you go, great, here's something in the middle of nowhere. It's in the middle of nowhere because in our case, we took a former network colo facility that was needed there to provide regular landline service, converted it into a data center, connected it to a network that has the ability to offer 5 milliseconds or better to be able to meet those big audacious use cases. And you go, great, here it is. They go, that's good. Now, what about GPUs? Because what I want to run requires a GPU. And you go, okay, now we're going to bring GPU to that. Well, what if my compute was here and my data was there, and the GPU I want is located over there because it's distributed and I'm not putting A100s all over the place because they're not cheap, they take a lot of power. What does that look like? And so all of a sudden we went from kind of piecemeal to now it's all or nothing because the use cases have become so audacious, right? 3 to 5 years from now, you look at, sorry, go ahead.
That's it? You're saying 3 to 5 years from now, that's the roadmap?
No, but it sounded like you were trying to answer the prior.
I was like, do you have this now? Yeah. That's what I wanted to know, Terry. Do you have it now?
That wasn't a roadmap.
4 p.m. Okay. You were saying, sir.
So, if you look into the crystal ball 3 to 5 years from now, what would you put big bets on? And what do you hope to see happens in the industry and what your companies collectively are doing? What's the big picture?
That's a tough question to ask or a tough question to answer. Maybe there's even harder. But for us, I think that, when there is, when we have these capabilities in place, right, and you're able to have, these really rich photorealistic 3D worlds, right, and think of them as, whether they're consumer facing or more industrial sort of metaverse, but where you've got connectivity between these 3D worlds where people are able to take with them their identity, right, and move freely between them the way we do the internet today, and have a really good, genuine interaction with whoever the publisher of that content is. I think if we could get even 3 or 4 steps in that direction in the next 3 to 5 years, I think we would be, thrilled to see that. Because you're thinking about, right now there's the metaverse ecosystem is messy. It's been a really rough 6 months, I would say, for the metaverse. But out of that, I think what you're seeing is companies, technologies are finding real world practical problems and applications to solve for. And it's going to look like 3D commerce. It's going to look like digital twins. It's going to look like new forms of entertainment. But right now, there's a hardware issue. There's a distribution issue. There's a cost issue. Solving for all of these things, at once is tough. So, I think that if collectively this ecosystem can come together and we can help solve some of those problems and get more of the applications out there, 3 to 5 years from now, I think you're going to see the web will start to look way more 3D than it is today.
Yeah, I would echo every point that Josh just made there. I think we already are seeing a change in the way that we interact with the digital world. Interaction is moving outside of the device, outside of these 2D rectangles that we're kind of stuck with at the moment and can't let go of. But already in my car at home, you can gesture to change the song, and you can talk to Siri and get her to do things for you. You can just use and blend your life with the digital world around you today, that it's only going to become more and more acceptable in the next 3 to 5 years, more and more kind of...
As I say, less of a gimmick and more of a practical application.
And so I think with that, with an acceleration in different types of hardware coming onto the market, an acceptance that the internet is 3D and this is how we interface with it, I'm excited to see the business models that people start building on top of these worlds. I talked about it earlier, that creative economy, life will find a way. When you just set creatives free, they develop weird and wonderful things. And so I think understanding the plumbing beneath that, the content is used, how it's interacted with, I see a role of a kind of YouTube of the metaverse for Hadean, where it's under that content infrastructure piece and then letting businesses be built on top of it.
Awesome. Adam?
Who knows what's coming next?
Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not at the Lumen Booth listening to this great podcast, come by to the Lumen Booth. Embodied presence is physical here at Lumen. That's right. 3 to 5 years, you'll actually be a human being in the Lumen Booth. Now, Terry, to answer your question, I mean, Josh said it, digital identity is at a point now where we are starting to parody, the first person kind of avatar-based gaming concept, and now we're taking our identity, we're putting it in immersive environments where we're transacting or meeting, celebrities or interacting with our sports teams or our favorite brands. I definitely think in 5 years, the early adopters will be a lot more mainstream. You'll see more Gen Xers like myself, and definitely more millennials, and the Gen Alphas they'll be coming more and more to the fray, where they're using multiple use cases with this idea of I have co-presence. And I think right now we're kind of in the 1997, where MySpace was. I think whatever we call immersive environments, I don't think it's going to be the metaverse. Maybe it will be. It's a great word. You little metaverse. But I'll tell you, Terry, we'll be there in some form or fashion. So we'll see you in the metaverse.
I'm sure you will. And Umesh.
Why did I sit here again? Why do I have to go after Adam every single time? Maybe we should have that as part of the podcast as well. No, very philosophical answer is the way we live, learn, build, grow, iterate, any of that when it comes to product, around people, around process, will completely evolve in the next 3 to 5 years with everything we're talking about right now. Right?
Yeah.
Like the way I learned today is going to YouTube, and that's going to change in 3 years.
Right.
The way I grew up learning was a book. Again, 2-dimension to 3-dimension to an interactive discussion. So all of that, just as a learning lens, but I think the way we build already is shifting. The way we iterate in real time and integrate is shifting as well. And then it kind of goes back to the concept of the metaverse, being able to truly digital twin things that we cannot scale out to that will shift the next phase.
Yeah. Exciting times for sure. Buckle up. Mimi, Josh, Adam, Umesh, thank you very much. I appreciate you guys taking the time. For those of you watching, we got a lot more to come. Later on, we're going to be talking about protecting the gaming experience, and then there's a lot more tomorrow, so stay tuned.